Right. So today we're going to be running through head and shoulder patterns, the regular head and shoulder patterns, as well as inverted head and shoulder patterns. And we're going to run through all of the components of the head and shoulder pattern, you know, the areas that you can trade within the head and shoulder pattern, along with after the pattern has been formed. We're also going to go through the types of heads that usually tend to form as well, because there are a variety of them. What you should confirm before trading a head and shoulder pattern as well. And then we're gonna finish off with some live examples for this week on head and shoulder patterns, right? So the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go to the whiteboard and we're gonna run through the components of the head and shoulder pattern again. Know that we did this in April, however, I wanted to go through it again. So a head and shoulder pattern, right? Just as it's called a head and shoulder, and the reason for that is because you, as you can see on your body, and where you could see my video as well, you usually tend to have a left shoulder, a head, and a right shoulder. Now, the left shoulder and right shoulder is usually lower than the head, as you can see here. So the same thing applies when trading a head and shoulder pattern, right? So you have a left shoulder, a head, and a right shoulder, right? Same type of pattern as is shown on your body. So the head and shoulder pattern is one of the best as well as most powerful patterns, reversal patterns in Forex or on the charts as a whole. Usually when you tend to see these patterns, I don't want to say it's guaranteed money, but if you know how to trade them, then you can become very profitable. I know persons who trade head and shoulder patterns alone only because of the profitability you get from the pattern itself. So in a head and shoulder pattern, you have first 3 components, right? There are more, but let's go through the first 3 that are critical. So the first one that you have is the left shoulder. Right? Then you have the head. And finally, you have the right shoulder. So these are the first 3 that we're discussing today. The left shoulder, the head, and the right shoulder, right? Now, a head and shoulder pattern is usually formed at the end of a trend. So if you have a downtrend and the trend is about to change, more than likely, you will have an inverted head and shoulder. Right? More than likely, you will have an inverted head and shoulder forming at the end of a downtrend. Okay? And if you are in an uptrend, right, at the end of the uptrend, you will more likely have a regular head and shoulder pattern, right, before the trend changes into a downtrend. Okay, so regular head and shoulder pattern, inverted head and shoulder pattern. It's just changed upside down, right? So this is formed at the end of a downtrend, and this is formed at the end of an uptrend, right? Now, it's critical for you to identify these three components first: the left shoulder, the head, and the right shoulder, right? The other components that the head and shoulder pattern usually tends to have is a neckline. Right? So it tends to have a neckline. Now, the neckline is usually the support or resistance, right? So understanding support and resistance is very important. That's why we started off with support and resistance first in our trainings. So the neckline, right, which is similar here. So the same way how with your body, you have a head, you have your left and your right shoulder, and the neckline, right, is basically takes the same form on the Forex chart. Now, in the inverted head and shoulder, the neckline is resistance. And in a regular head and shoulder, the neckline is support. Right? Because in a regular head and shoulder, price bounces off from support and goes back up. In an inverted head and shoulder, price bounces off from resistance and goes back down. Right? To finish the formation of the head and shoulder pattern. All right, so this is very important for you guys to note. These are the main components of the head and shoulder pattern. Right? Now, usually, like I said, if an inverted head and shoulder is forming at the end of a downtrend, and we're going to change trend and going to uptrend, means that when price eventually breaks out of my inverted head and shoulder pattern, we're looking for price to go up because it is breaking out of a downtrend. So we're looking for price to go up into an uptrend. Likewise, with a regular head and shoulder, which is formed at the end of an uptrend, right? We're looking for price to go down. We're looking for it to sell. All right, so a regular head and shoulder, price needs to break support to continue to sell and create the downtrend. And in the inverted head and shoulder, price needs to break resistance to continue to buy and create an uptrend. All right, so hopefully everybody gets that so far. I'm going to try to move as slow as possible. However, I want to try to cover most of the components in the head and shoulder pattern today so that we can actually participate in the live examples. All right, now in the head and shoulder pattern, there will be support and resistance in the entire pattern and not only just in neckline. So for example, the left shoulder in a regular head and shoulder pattern, right, meets a resistance, right? the head also meets a resistance, and the right shoulder also meets a resistance as well. Okay. Likewise, with the inverted head and shoulder pattern, the left shoulder meets the support. The head also meets the support, and the right shoulder also meets a support. Cool, everybody following? We good so far? We good?
Yes, yes, please.
Good. So now the right shoulder of the head and shoulder pattern in most cases meets the resistance of the left shoulder of the head and shoulder pattern. So most times the right shoulder will reverse at the resistance of the left shoulder in most cases. Obviously, sometimes this changes depending on market manipulation and so forth. But in most cases, you will find that the right shoulder meets the same resistance as the left shoulder. The same thing applies to the inverted head and shoulder. The right shoulder meets the support of the left shoulder in most cases. Right? So in most cases, they both align. All right, so that's very important for you guys to know. Now, one of the things to confirm whether or not you have a head and shoulder pattern forming before a right shoulder is formed. So before you get the right shoulder, so if I just had to remove this, and we're gonna draw it over again. Let me actually do it straight. So let's do this. All right, so this is what happens first. After this, you get the head. All right, now when you see this, how to confirm that you're having a head and shoulder pattern forming is by having something called 100% retracement of the left shoulder and of the head, right? So it must meet the support of your left shoulder, and that is called 100% retracement. So where the head started, it needs to come back and finish, right? And that is known as 100% retracement. So that's one of the confirmations that you need first to really be able to say and validate that the pattern forming is more than likely a head and shoulder pattern. The head must give you 100% retracement. All right, so we're not looking for it to stop here or here or here. We're looking for us to get a full 100% retracement of the head where it started. Once we have the 100% retracement of the head, then we look at our target areas. We can then start to identify possible areas that we expect the next move to go to. So in a case like this, if I'm analyzing the chart, right? If I'm analyzing the chart, I am looking from here for my right shoulder to form and come up to my left shoulder resistance. So I am looking after I get my full 100% retracement of my head for the trade to come up to the resistance of my left shoulder. Why? Because we said earlier that in most cases, the head and shoulder pattern, the shoulder in the head and shoulder pattern usually meets the same resistance. So this becomes a target point for me, right? And I'm just going to move this for now. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to stretch this way across, right? So that everybody could understand rather than me having individual lines. Okay, good. So I'm looking for my right shoulder to come up to my left shoulder resistance. And then I am looking for the trade to actually reverse. So I'm looking for it to get some rejection here and not go any higher, right? To then complete my left shoulder. All right, so let me just put back here left shoulder. Okay. Sorry, I just wanted to look perfect. Good. So in most cases, like I mentioned, I'm looking for my right shoulder to meet the resistance of my left shoulder. Right? Now, that's for the regular head and shoulder pattern. The same thing applies to the inverted head and shoulder pattern. All right. So it's just upside it down. Same thing applies. And for me to validate that this is a head and shoulder pattern, it must do 100% retracement of the head. So where it originally started. So it must get a full retracement. It must come all the way back where it started. Okay. That's critical. And from there, I am looking, as I said before, for the right shoulder now to meet the support of my left shoulder. And it's really a good target point. It's really a good target point. You're not going to just jump into a trade once it meets the support of the left shoulder, but you're going to start to look at possible moves from there so long as you have your confirmation. But it's a good target point. So if you see a trade that you like, right? And if you see a trade that you like and you see that it looks as if it's forming a head and shoulder pattern, and you say to yourself, okay, this looks like a head and shoulder pattern, but let me go through my confirmations. Okay, I see a left shoulder, possible left shoulder. I see 100% retracement of my head. So what you can start to do to prepare yourself for a quality trade setup is use your support of your left shoulder or your resistance of your left shoulder as a target point to basically monitor this area for possible move to complete the entire head and shoulder pattern. All right, so there are 3 ways to trade the head and shoulder pattern. All right, there are 3 ways to trade the head and shoulder pattern. Let's go black. So 3 ways to trade. You can trade the completion of the head. I need to fold this around. So you can trade the right shoulder, and you can trade the breakout of the neckline. Everybody got that? So there are 3 ways to trade the head and shoulder pattern: the completion of the head, the right shoulder, and the breakout of the neckline. Right? So the completion of the head, usually persons that are more advanced or understands the head and shoulder pattern, understand major reversal zones and support and resistance zones, but tend to trade the completion of the head. I would not recommend a beginner or someone who is now, learning the pattern as such to trade the completion of the head, right? Neither would I recommend them trading the right shoulder. For beginners, persons that know understanding the pattern, the best way to trade the head and shoulder pattern will be the break of the neckline. So when it breaks up from here. All right? So when it breaks up from the neckline, you can then look to sell here. Actually, let me just extend it. All right. So you can look to sell. And as a beginner, if you're trading the inverted as a beginner, you can look to buy the inverted. Right? I wouldn't recommend beginners trading the completion of the head. Neither would I recommend you trading the right shoulder. I would advise beginners to trade the breakout of the head and shoulder pattern because it's one of the easiest ways to trade the pattern itself. Very easy. All right. But for the advanced trader that may be on this call, or persons who are looking for a bit of a challenge, you can trade the completion of the head to do a full 100% retracement of the neckline, or the right shoulder to come back to the neckline as well. So you can trade the right shoulder actually 2 ways. You can trade the right shoulder from the 100% retracement of the head. You can buy, very risky though, you can buy from the neckline back up to the left shoulder resistance, and then you can sell from the left shoulder resistance to the neckline and beyond. But it's risky. That's why I say that it is really for the advanced trader. All right, so if you're now starting off with this pattern, I would advise you to trade the breakouts only. Currently, we trade, when I send you guys patterns and I send you guys analysis and I send you guys signals and so on, I don't know if you guys actually go on the chart and actually look to see, you know, what we're actually trading. And if you do, in most cases, I trade the completion of the head and the 2 ways to trade the right shoulder and the breakout of the head and shoulder pattern. So those are what we participate in when trading with me. Right? So this is a very beautiful pattern. I love head and shoulders and inverted head and shoulders. You should be making notes. You can at least get a minimum of 3 head and shoulder patterns per week. Before I used to say 4, but then based on my study and actually going through all of the charts and so on, I think 3 is a good number to stick to. So you can get at least a minimum of 3 head and shoulder patterns per week. And to be honest, if you like head and shoulder pattern and that's the pattern you want to stick to, you could just trade those 3 and you'll be good. Truth be told, you don't need anything else for the remainder of the week. Right? So I'm just doing a check-in. Everybody good again? We understand so far? Am I moving too quickly? We good, yeah?
I good.
Okay, excellent. Good. So if you want to go ahead and take a snapshot of this, let me just expand. If you want to go ahead and take a snapshot of this, you can, because I'm going to move this now from here. So you can take a snapshot. I will as well. All right, so you can take a snapshot of this. So you can save it in terms of understanding how the head and shoulder pattern usually tends to form. Goody. So now I'm going to go through the different types of head and shoulder patterns that form. So the first one we're going to look at is the regular head and shoulder pattern that I would have just drawn. Oh, there you draw the second one. So which is your regular head and shoulder pattern. From there, you could also get next one that forms. Oh boy. So you can get a double head, right? Sometimes we very much do get a double head, head and shoulder pattern. You can also have We often get this one a lot. Right? So you get this one a lot, where the trade consolidates for quite some time before it actually completes the head. You can get a double head. You can get a regular head and shoulder pattern. Sometimes you can get a short pattern as well. So rather than it being so big, it can be very small. I'm trying to think of what other patterns I would have seen. Let me just do a quick check here to see what, yeah. Yeah, so right, so basically these are the three main ones that you would tend to see, right? And if you're drawing this out, you can draw it upside down as well. I'll just do it for the purposes of this training. Long things. So same thing for the inverted. Right, regular inverted. I'm drawing this twice because I'm gonna get you guys to screenshot it, so you can have those. My hard work. The way the double head is usually in the form of a W or M, yeah? So you can put that as well. Usually in the form of a W for the double bottom, which is the one that I'm doing now. And the regular one that is above, yeah, M. So M, W, right? All right. So 3 types of head and shoulder pattern that you would tend to see. Right? So regular head and shoulder pattern on the left, both regular and inverted. This is the one that's most common. You can also have a double top head and shoulder and a double bottom head and shoulder, also known as an M and W, right? You can get that type of head as well, head and shoulder pattern. And then you have this one here, which I've been seeing a lot lately, where you have a very long consolidation period before the head is completed. and then the right shoulder to finish as well. So 3 types of head and shoulder patterns that you would usually tend to see on the chart are these. You can go ahead now and you can take a snapshot of my lovely work. All right. So 3 types of head and shoulder pattern: the regular, double tops and double bottoms, and a long consolidation period of the head. You can trade all, right? One is not better than the next. Some a bit tricky, like the consolidation one could be a bit tricky because if you're trading the head as an advanced trader and you get in here, the trade could come back down when you're thinking that you're actually trading the completion of the head. So this could be a bit tricky. In a case like this, when trading this, I usually recommend persons to box in the consolidation. So create a nice support and resistance zone of the consolidation farming, right? I'll wait for the trade to break out of your consolidation. So wait for it to break out of this zone so that you don't get trapped in this. All right, so this, as I say, could be tricky, but you guys know how to trade, how to box in support and resistance because we've done it before. And if you need a refresher, please go to my YouTube channel, right? So you have this. With this is also tricky as well because with the double top, when you get the first 100% retracement of the head, right, you automatically start to look for a regular pattern like this. So what happens is that, remember I said, you can look to trade your right shoulder, right? You can look to trade your right shoulder based off of the resistance of the left shoulder. Now, what I also said was don't just jump in the trade because you get 100% retracement of the head and it's back at your left shoulder resistance. Don't just say, all right, good, be back here, let me jump in for sell. You need your confirmations. And the reason for that is because the trade could very much do this, come back up to the top of this head and then drop to create a pattern. So it's very, very important that when we actually start to go through and break down how to trade the patterns that you guys recognize, you can't just enter a sell from the right shoulder. And either way, beginners should be trading the breakout of the neckline. All right, same thing here as well. Same thing applies here.
Question, Karen.
Yes, please.
Right. So you said there are 3 types: the regular, the double top. Mm-hmm. You said this one is, the last one is consolidation.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You've traded one of these before.
I have?
Yes. You just probably didn't recognize it was a head and shoulder pattern, but you've traded it before. I will have to, which one was that did that? We're gonna look at it though, but I just want to make sure you guys have these 3 first. Then we're gonna go to the charts now. get a little bit from this boring stuff and go to the real deal.
Okay.
Yeah. So everybody good with this? Basic framework of a head and shoulder pattern. We good? Any questions, concerns, queries, feedback? We good?
I believe so.
Where have I lost you guys? In the consolidation one?
Not really lost. I just wouldn't think that that would have been a head and shoulders. I would have just focused in on the consolidation area and look for a breakout there.
Yeah. So this is why too, sometimes when I set you guys assignments, I tell you guys to zoom out, look left, and zoom out, look left, and you know, have an open mind. Right? And I'm going to show you some examples of that now. So once you guys have this, because I'm going to close off from this, now we're going to go to the chart. Right. Oh, Money, you got your camera. Anyhow, I think it was there. Was it there? What was it? There was some pattern that we traded recently. Which was, because I know there's a head and shoulder here. Can't remember, you know. I think it was this though. It was some other ones too, but I think it was this. Anyhow, this is a good example here. So let me just take off some stuff, open this up. So let's go through the different types of head and shoulder actually before you actually look for the complicated one. So let's start here with the DXY. Right? So just moving some stuff. Good. So what I have here, right? You know what? Hang on a minute. Let me go to where I don't have markups. Like that. Or things that I could change it because that was my chart there and I don't want to have to thing it. So there we go. Lovely. So the DXY. So this is what it would look like to you. Okay, and now remember I said you need to be open-minded. And by being open-minded, what I mean is that you need to open your chart with a fresh mind and always take the full picture into consideration. So first I'm going to do is zoom out. I see that we have a downtrend. Because remember I said head and shoulder patterns are formed at the ending of a trend. So when we're looking for a trend reversal, you can look for head and shoulder pattern. Goody? So we have this. And we have this entire situation happening here. Now, it's critical for you guys to first mark out your zones. That's key. Always mark out your zones, right? This is going to help you in terms of identifying what is being formed, the type of pattern that is being formed, right? So first I'm going to do is I'm going to mark out my zone, right? I'm going to mark support and resistance. So this is a resistance zone here. Good. Now, you have this, and then it further fell here. So when I see something like this first, I love to look for a left shoulder. A left shoulder is just gonna look like a scoop to me. So what I'm looking for is a scoop. Usually in the shape of a V, sometimes it could just have a type of a spoon look, but I'm looking for a scoop. It needs to do this. A nice U, if you want to call it that, right? So it's going to either be a V or it's going to be a U. And I call it scoop because it never is scooping to me, right? So that's the first thing I like to look for. When I see the market then trickle and drop further, and I be open-minded and I look left and I see a scoop, I am not saying to myself, okay, this is a head and shoulder pattern. I'm not going to just say that like that. I need to confirm. So I have to bring together everything. Everything that I taught you guys in the last couple of weeks, all of that really comes into play now. So we talked about being analytical traders and thinkers, right? So things that I look for: support and resistance zone. Is this a major reversal zone? Why am I seeing a scoop here? Yes, I see a downtrend. Why would the trade want to change here? All right, why would the trade want to change here? Am I at a major daily zone? Am I at a major 4-hour zone? Why here? And then we start to see what's happening. So you need to bring together everything. You need to validate everything. I see a scoop, but why am I having a scoop here? I can see I have a downtrend. I have a scoop, and the market is now just selling. What is it trying to create? I go up a time frame. And it's very simple, you know. It's just a matter of how you bring it together. It's very simple, your problem solving. And that's what trading is about. It's nothing easy. Right? So I go up a time frame. So let's say, for example, I was on the 1-hour time frame. I went up to the 4-hour to try to understand what is happening here. Why here? Okay. So if I extend this out, I am at a major 4-hour reversal zone. Yeah. If I go up one more time frame, I am at a major daily resistance zone. So there and then I start to ask myself, what types of patterns form at support and resistance, especially strong support and resistance zones? What happens at strong support and resistance zones? So what usually tends to happen is that you get a reversal at these zones. And what's the strongest pattern that is going to give you the reversal at these zones usually tends to be a head and shoulder pattern. So I identified my zones, right? I understand now that I am at a daily support or daily resistance, 4-hour support, 4-hour resistance zone. So back down to my 1-hour chart. Back down to my 1-hour chart, I need to identify a downtrend, because if I'm seeing a scoop, I need to at least an inverted scoop in order for me to validate a head and shoulder pattern to trade. To say that we're going to have a reversal in trend, I need to see a previous trend first. So I need to see a downtrend. Right? So I have a downtrend here. I have my scoop. The market then dropped below. So there and then I start to tell myself, looks as if we're creating a head and shoulder pattern. Right? Now, I'm not going to go to the advanced stuff of trading the head. We're going to just talk about trading the right shoulder and trading the breakout of the neckline today. So once I have this scoop, I identify my resistance zone over here. Then and I see this, what I want to then validate is 100% retracement of my head. So 100% retracement would mean that it comes back up here to where my head would have possibly started, which would also be the resistance of my scoop. Right? So in order for me to validate that this is a head and shoulder pattern, when this finally decides to stop dropping and it turns around, I need it to come back up to here. Yeah, so once it comes back up to there, then I get my aha. I see what it is you're forming now. So you're forming an inverted head and shoulder pattern. Why? I have my 100% retracement of my head. I can see a clear scoop. We've just been in a downtrend. We're at a major daily support and resistance zone. And all of these are the factors that I put into play to be able to validate a quality setup. So from here, I need my right shoulder to form. Now, what I said about right shoulders is key, because from here, more than likely, this, I need to change the color one second. When I do this, is gonna come back up. From here, I need to see my trade coming back down to my left shoulder support. I need to see some type of rejection in my left shoulder support for me to then say, okay, I can trade my right shoulder back up to my resistance zone. Advanced trader. Beginner trader, once all of this is complete, you have it easy because you need to identify the trend, identify the reversal zones, looking at your higher time frames, identify a scoop, identify the 100% retracement, and then once your right shoulder is complete, so it comes back up to your neckline, the only thing you're looking for then, right, is to get a breakout candle, and it must close outside of your neckline. So a breakout candle closing must close outside of your neckline. Rejection is candlestick patterns. Even some other patterns as well, like M's, W's, that's your type of rejection. Engulfing candles, so on. Right, so this is the beginner entry on candle close, breaking above the neckline. Advanced trader, you can trade the buy from here back up to your neckline and beyond. So we understand. So I'm gonna go through the rules. Please write them down again whilst I'm going through them. So the first thing you need to do is draw your zones, right? Draw your zones. You can start with the time frame that you're trading with. So if you're trading on the 1 hour time frame, draw your zones on the 1 hour time frame, right? Next, have an open mind. Have an open mind. Zoom out and look to see what is forming within your zone. If you see a scoop, an inverted scoop, the next thing you need to identify is a downtrend. So I'm going to zoom out and then I'm going to be like, I have my downtrend once I see a scoop. And now we go into our problem solving stage. Why am I having a scoop at the end of my downtrend here? Why is the trade looking to reverse? And you go back up to your 4-hour and your daily zone, your daily time frames, and you look, you notice that you're at a daily support or 4-hour support or daily resistance and a 4-hour resistance. You know that this is a major reversal zone based on those higher time frames. Then you can say, you know what? I saw a scoop on the time frame I'm trading on. I validated a downtrend. I'm at a major support and resistance zone. So now I need to see a full 100% retracement of my head. So I need to see a full 100% retracement of my head. So my head needs to come all the way back up to here, right? And then I could either look to trade the right shoulder when it comes down here and trade it back up to the neckline, or I can wait for a solid body breakout candle from my neckline and trade the trend up. Everybody with me so far?
So far.
Yes, please.
Excellent, excellent. Good. Right. So I saw another head and shoulder. I think it was 0 GPY. Good. Lovely. Next pattern. Double bottom. All right. So I traded on the 1 hour time frame, so I'm gonna start to identify my little zones. Right. So remember taking your zone. You know how we draw zones. I usually tend to look for my engulfing candles, and then I spread it from there. Right. So I can just give that, because this is the engulfing here and the engulfing here. Cool. Look at this here as well. Saw that my trade reversed from here. So we got some engulfing candles down there as well. Yeah, so I boxed in this. So being open-minded, I'm looking at this, and somebody that is a beginner might just say, oh, I see a W that I can trade. If you see a W that you can trade, let's see if you could identify a scoop. So I see a scoop here. I got my U here. And I have what appears to be a double bottom. So I start to go into my problem solving stage. I see a scoop, a double bottom. Can I identify a trend previously? Yes, I can. We have a downtrend here. Possible head and shoulder pattern. Why am I having a head and shoulder pattern in this zone? Inverted head and shoulder. Let's go up a time frame. So I go up a time frame, and voila, what can I see? I can see a major 4-hour support and resistance zone. Major 4-hour support and resistance zone. Major daily support zone as well. So going back to my time frame, I get my aha moment. I identified a previous trend. I see my scoop. I see a double bottom. We are a major 4-hour and daily support zone. So we have all the things we need in terms of our problem solving. Now, to validate my head and shoulder pattern, I must have 100% retracement of the head from where it started. Do I currently have that? No. So right now, this still needs to come back up to here to give me 100% retracement. So this is how I look for ideal and quality setups. So I notice I didn't have my 100% retracement yet. So this trade is not ready for me. It needs to give me my 100% retracement And then I am looking at my right shoulder. So my right shoulder, I am looking at it to buy from the support of my left shoulder. All right. So anywhere within this zone is where I'm looking for my right shoulder to form. So that's the way I stop back there. And from there, I'm looking to get into a buy, and my buy could be back up to my neckline, right? Advanced trader or beginner trader, you can wait for all of this to complete and you get a solid breaking candle of your neckline zone. And then you enter your trade for your buy. Good? And Marcia says, yes, thank you. Anyone else? We good? You good, peoples? Talk to me. This is quality stuff here.
Good.
Excellent. Good. So you are not waiting for the head to complete. So what would you have done?
I'm looking there and looking and seeing that it looked to me like boxing to boxing consolidation.
You mean to take to buy to complete the head?
Yes, but now that you have drawn in the zone, I can see clearly that the head didn't go right back up to 100% retracement as yet.
Yes.
Yes, once the zones are drawn in, it's easier to see.
Good. So that's a good point in terms of making sure you have your zones. That's key.
Yes.
Let's have the zone space. All right. Whoop. What happened there? There we go. Ready. So I just want to find one more example of a regular head and shoulder. This one, I don't want to give too much of a difficult one. So I like GU. Okay. Let's look at GU. All right. So I see this mumble jumble in front of me. These persons usually tend to run from things like this, right? When they see all this here, they're running because they can't identify anything, but you have to be able to break down stuff, right? So draw my support and resistance zones. Break down what it is you see.
We're not seeing your screen, Coach.
Huh?
We're not seeing your screen.
Oh, what you're saying?
No, I see.
You.
All right. There. Good? Okay. So let's go back here. So I see this mumble jumble here on GBP USD, and these are live examples and live trades we could take on. So when I did the EJ, just know to show you guys the inverted, put that on your watch list because you could take the buy for the year JPY. Okay, so I see this mumble jumble. Some people tend to run from this because it looks choppy. They can't identify anything. They can't see a pattern as such. So they run from it. Now, I told you guys, the best traders usually use the pairs they don't like. So build yourself basically in the pairs that you don't like, the patterns you don't like, the choppiness, the conditions you don't like. Use that to practice in. The reason why is that it makes you stronger as a person. It makes you a stronger trader because you'll be able to trade easier setups, and you build yourself in seeing these type of market conditions. If you constantly go for easy setups, when things that happen out the ordinary take place, you will find yourself in difficulty. For example, COVID conditions came. We never had COVID before. We never experienced market conditions with COVID before, so we didn't know how to trade it. You know, a lot of persons would have lost during that time, lost a lot of money. Some persons would have gained. So the whole idea is to strengthen yourself with the periods that you don't like, patterns you don't like to see. I'm not telling you to trade them, but I'm saying use it as your playground, use it as your case study to strengthen yourself. So you see this mumble jumble here, and problem solve, break it down. So I'm going to identify my zones. I'm going to come here. I'm going to do that. I see a support zone here. You see a resistance zone here. We got the head at the top as well. Well, we don't know it's a head and shoulder yet, but we see a reversal zone out here. So I draw my 3 zones on the time frame that I'll be trading. So I asked myself, I could see a scoop, right? I see a scoop, and then the market broke out. And rarely enough, I have 100% retracement of my scoop. Is this a head and shoulder pattern? Well, first I need to identify, was there an uptrend previously for us to have a regular head and shoulder pattern? And you could see that we had an uptrend here. All right. So when we had an uptrend, we got the scoop. We have 100% retracement, so it validates it for a head. We go up to the 4-hour time frame and we ask ourselves, why does the market seem as though it's creating a head and shoulder pattern in these areas? And we notice that we are at a major 4-hour resistance zone. I'm just going to bring this across here as well. 4-hour support zone as well. So you see it there. Yeah, we are at a 4-hour support equals resistance zone here as well. And we look at the daily and we see that this was a major, this was a daily support zone here. All right. And down here, daily resistance equals support as well. So we come back to our 1-hour time frame. We have our scoop. We have 100% retracement of the head. It gave us a double head, which came back and gave us 100% retracement. Right? So now I am looking for a right shoulder to form. And my right shoulder, I'm looking for it to come up to my previous left shoulder resistance. and then give me the drop. So advanced trader, this is not confirmed until the trade comes back up to your point of interest, basically. So it needs to come back to your point of interest. Point of interest for me is within this zone here, the resistance of my left shoulder, right? Beginner, for a beginner that is looking at this, you can possibly look at your move from this meeting in a second name, Marcia. So you could possibly look at your move to be the candle close of your neckline. So let me just change these colors here. I didn't recognize I did them in that color, so we don't get too confused. So advanced trader, we have a double bottom giving us, a double top giving us both 100% retracements of our neckline. So now we have a right shoulder to form. So you're looking for the trade to come back up into this zone here and then sell. So you can look for a possible sell move here, ideally. And what is beautiful is that we also have an engulfing candle here as well. So that's why we want to look for this zone for a possible sell back down to the neckline. Beginner, wait until you get a solid body candle breaking your neckline, and then you could take the sell down. Good. Marcy, you had a question? Good. Excellent.
Yeah, I am seeing how understanding the zones is so important.
Yeah. Very important. That's why we started off with that. And if you can.
Yeah, it's better to wait for that point of interest than to jump in a trade and then it's going all over the place.
Correct. So the whole idea, guys, is you want quality trades and you want quality setups, you need to wait. You don't just trade all over the place. You have areas of interest. And if the trade does not meet those areas of interest, then you move on. That's how you identify quality trades. If the trade had to turn around from down here, you don't say, oh shoot, and it ain't gone up. Let me try to see if I can catch the sell here, because it might look like it's turning around here, and then it goes all the way back up to the same point of interest. So it's very important, especially in trading, to wait for those points, those areas, your targets to be touched first, for the trade to come and set up there first before you take a trade in a low area. It helps you. We're not world traders. We're analytical thinkers and analytical traders. It's different. We're looking at quality setups only. So again, possible trade for this week here with GU live example. Wait for the trade to come up to this point of interest. You can look to take your sell back down to the neckline for the advanced trader, right? Back down to the neckline is 120 pips, is more than enough, right? The beginner trader, you could wait for a solid body candle break of your neckline. If you wanted to identify where or how long you should hold that cell. My last nugget before I shut off today's training is that if you measure your head and shoulder patterns, it usually tells you how far to expect the trade to continue for. So by measuring, you use a trend line and you come to not directly the top of the head, but inner support and resistance within the head. So for example, you can see that this is inner support and resistance here. So anywhere from here, my support zone from there, I take a trend line and I start it from my inner support and I come all the way down to my neckline, right? Do not do wick to wick, you know. I like to do an average. So I start from here. Is a possibility that it could sell for the whole length of this head. Great. But what do you rather? You rather doing an average, or you rather hope that it's going to do that in terms? So the best thing to do for me, I like to get the meat of my trade. So the meat of my trade more likely is at least some type of minimal move, which will be this. Right? So once I've measured that, I place that down here by my neckline. And based on that, it then tells me that to expect my trade, right, to at least sell to these zones here. So for the beginner, if you're taking this trade on candle body, break, and close of the neckline, you can possibly look to sell to this area here based on the measurement of my head. Right? And that's still a good set of pips, 133 pips down to that support zone. So that's just a little nugget at the end. Measure your head. In measuring your head, you're using a trend line and you're starting from your inner support and resistance of that head. Your inner support and resistance. You're gonna start from there and you're gonna stretch the trend line all the way down to the neckline. Once you've completed that, you move that trend line over to right underneath your neckline towards your right shoulder, and you basically use that as a gauge to see how far the trade is going to sell to. Good? Everybody good with what we've learned so far today? Yeah? Excellent.
Yep.
Goody. So for me, that's it for me today in terms of today's lesson, which is the head and shoulder pattern. Hopefully you guys have, I don't want to do anymore because I don't want to give you too much information. You have a lot. You have the different types of head and shoulder patterns that usually tend to form. We went to the whiteboard first, so we went through the components of the head and shoulder pattern. We also went through the 3 types of head and shoulders that usually tend to form, which is the regular one that looks like a V, the double top or double bottom, and the consolidated head and shoulder pattern. From there, we talked about the 3 ways to trade a head and shoulder pattern, which is participating in the 100% retracement of the head, to participate in the right shoulder, or to participate in the breakout of the neckline. We talked about the types of traders and which areas they would trade in the head and shoulder pattern for the advanced trader would usually tend to trade the completion of the head along with I'm sorry. Oh, so they would, the advanced trader would usually tend to trade the completion of the head along with the completion of the right shoulder. The beginner trader would usually trade a candle, a solid body candle, break and close of the neckline. Right? From there, we went to live examples. We looked at the DXY, we looked at Euro, JPY, and GBP USD. To show you guys 3 examples of inverted and regular head and shoulder patterns. We talked about doing a top-down analysis first to get your support and resistance zones. We talked about identifying the trend first because that is key. So bear in mind and always remember that if you see head and shoulder pattern forming, you should identify the previous trend. And if you can't identify a previous trend, I will probably stay away from that pattern. So we talked about identifying the trend. We talked about the scoop being the left shoulder. So looking for a scoop in the form of a V or a U. And then from there, we start to validate our 100% retracement of the head. From validating the 100% retracement of the head, we then look at the move for the right shoulder and then the breakout of the neckline. Right, so that's all that we went through today. If you guys aren't sure, this is a recorded session, so I'm going to post it on YouTube for you guys to revert and go over again. Very, very solid information in there. And always remember that you can measure the move of the head and shoulder pattern by using a trend line, starting from the inner support and resistance of the head and bringing it all the way down to your neckline, right? And this tells you how far to expect the trade to buy or sell from the break of the neckline. All right, so that's just a brief summary of what we did today. There's a lot. I don't want to make the recording any longer. All right, guys.